Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Block Party Podcast. This is episode number 11. It's your boy Crypto Blood
and TruthBlitz, and today we got a special treat. We got a returning guest, Bix Weir, and we're going to be doing a show probably once a month called In the Mix with Bix.
I love the name.
In addition to our regular show. Yeah, man, definitely cool. So, you know, enjoy the show, and until next time.
Peace.
This the story of Crypto Blood and TruthBlitz. Ask them a cliff high what the truth is. They was just talking about the blockchain. That's when they heard Janet yelling and the cops came. They said, give me all your Bitcoin and lock aim. Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So they hopped in the Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Block Party Podcast. And today we've got a special series, or I don't know what you want to call them. We're going to do it every month, or try to, with Bix. It's called In the Mix with Bix.
Yeah.
What's going on, Bix? How are you today?
I'm having a great time. You guys are awesome. I'm very much looking forward to this. I've backed out of a couple of the older kind of returning guest type of thing. Once a month is fine. You know,
Cool.
For me, once a month is great. You guys are awesome. So we get to talk about anything you want. Free game.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, you know, I think, once a month, like you said, is good. It's not every week. It can get draining sometimes. And, you know, a month's worth of time going by in the crypto world, Bix, is like
a year.
It's like a whole quarter. So that's cool. I think we'll have a lot of topics to talk about. And really, people, what me and Nick wanted to do was have some type of dialogue with Bix that wasn't all, hey, we're all on the same page. Let's have a debate about different topics. That's what we're trying to do here with this series. So we'll have a lot of different topics that we all don't agree on. And it's just good to have a thought exercise. And, you know, just maybe one position may make some of the viewers see it, the other, and vice versa. So that's what it's all about in this space, expanding our minds, challenging our thoughts. And I'm very, very excited about this, Bix. So Nick, you want to kick it off? I think what we're going to do today, people, we're going to talk about 3 topics, and that was EOS, Big's take on EOS. He's been talking about it a lot lately. And then also remote viewing. I'm excited about that one because I don't know too much about it. So I would love to get a lot of information from Bix on that. And I think, Nick, you know about that stuff too as well.
Yeah, I've been starting to study it and looking at it, maybe even starting to try to do it myself. So I'm trying to train myself. So.
You're right. And then so lastly, we'll talk about Litecoin and why Bix thinks this is a technical nightmare for traders. I'm glad to talk about that one as well. So let's kick it off, man. We're going to save EOS for best for last. That's like, I think that's going to be. We got to reel them in, man. We can't
See, that's the thing. We got to end on a happy note. We can't end on some sad depression discussion about what's going on.
We may not be friends by the end of that, so I'm thinking we should end with that.
We will always be friends. We will. I love to listen to other people's opinion and give them mine. And truthfully, I've been digging into the EOS. It's really not the EOS situation. It's the Block 1 situation and the structure of it.
So kick it off, man. You want to talk EOS? Let's do that.
Yeah, I'll start with that one first. I know you have been doing some homework on it, and I know, previously Crypto Blood and myself have had a pretty positive stance about EOS and about, what they're setting out to do. And I know I just did a video in response to someone else's video about, he says it's a giant scam. And, I said why I didn't think that was true. And I know there are some dark things that are tied to Block 1. So, yeah, why don't you just, tell us what your research has turned up?
Okay, so first of all, the concept of EOS is amazing. I mean, it could change the world. If they could do what they're claiming as a no-brainer at a $15 billion market cap, it's already basically baked in the cake, right? But if they can do it, ultra fast transactions, all the things that they say they're going to do, if they can do that technologically, that would be amazing. but there's other things. It's not just technology, as we've seen time and time again. It's not just the technology that is going to allow people to adopt these new inventions. It's the morality, it's the people behind it, it's the structure of the system, who's really in charge. There's all kinds of things, and with EOS that really comes into play because of the way they structured their ICO. Their ICO basically states that you are buying nothing. There is nothing you are buying. It is in the terms and conditions that this is nothing. You are giving your money to Block One on a hope and a prayer. Everybody says, yeah, that's just to get around the SEC rules. I understand that. I might have a problem with that, but it doesn't matter. So that's kind of the beginnings. So you really do have to say, okay, if EOS really wants to take this stance that they're building something, you're going to pay for it. They're going to release the software to the world, and then everybody else is in charge of it after that. Block One has absolutely no obligation at all to spend the money they got on EOS projects. To Dan Larimer will probably bail the day it's released, because I mean he's done that before, and you know it's kind of, if it is as great as they say it is, maybe that'll work. But we have other problems, and those other problems have to do with Block One, the people behind Block One. Brock Pierce just backed out of Block One when it was revealed that was it John Oliver's show that said, you guys got to look into Block One, this guy Brock Pierce. Absolutely. I mean, this guy is knee deep in some of the worst stuff that history has shown us over the past 20 years. The worst stuff within the internet, the pedophilia, the Ponzi schemes, you name it. Brock Pierce has been involved in it. And his two partners, this guy Mark Richter, Collins Richter, and Chad Shackley. Now these guys, I mean, this started with Brock Pierce was a child actor in the late 90s. You know, he's in the Mighty Ducks, and so these guys started a pedophilia ring in Hollywood and started a company called DEN, Digital Entertainment Network, that was famous for their Brock is gay and all his partners are gay, which is fine. But, you know, if you start abusing young children, which they did back in the late 90s, what they would do is promise these kids that they would give them movie roles and things like that. And they would bring them to their estate. It's called the M&C estate in Encino, California. And they'd have these flamboyant parties where they'd drug these kids and give them alcohol, and then require them to go naked into the hot tub while Brock Pierce, Collins Richter, and Shackley would hold the kid down and do anything they wanted with them. And it happened time and time again. And so many kids came out, lawsuits, very graphic lawsuits. You can find them online. And then what happened? Were
any of those lawsuits actually won or settled? How was that? What was the outcome?
They lost all the lawsuits because these three guys fled the country. They fled to Spain. As soon as, right before they got served the papers in 2000, they fled to Spain, where the age of consent for sexual dealings is 13 years old. So they lived for 2.5 years in Spain. And when they finally got arrested, I think it was Interpol or someone found them, arrested them, and the Spanish authorities were with them, they found more child porn than ever has been found in any arrest. To me, that was the beginning of the internet child porn problem.
So why didn't they go to jail then, Bix?
Well, that's the thing. First of all, these were all settled out. Basically, the court ordered $4.5 million to be paid to the claimants. And Brock Pierce and friends had literally billions of dollars from various things that they were doing on the side. So they paid them all off. Basically, everybody agreed to say, hey, here's a couple million, you drop it, you haven't collected the 4.5, and it's been 2.5 years. So Brock Pierce claims that, he didn't know anything about it. Well, there's like 30 articles in the LA Times. All his friends are there. It had to do with Disney and some of the biggest people in show business. Mark Geffen, I think, the guy, the DreamWorks guy, and the guy, the director or producer of X-Men. I mean, this is the top of the top, and these guys had paid off a lot of the prosecutors in LA in that area, and they even made a movie about it. The first movie produced or television show produced by DEN, the Digital Equipment or Digital Entertainment Network, was called Chad's World, and it basically spells out the whole thing that they get underage kids, they work with the powers that be, and it's just so bad. A movie was made of it called An Open Secret, and this movie was completely blackballed by all the studios. They couldn't release it. It finally came out on YouTube. You can get it. Do a search for An Open Secret, and it outlines what Brock Pierce has done and all that. Now, there's a way you could say, well, okay, EOS is separate than Brock Pierce. Well, Block One is owned by Brock Pierce. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, nobody has seen ownership papers of Block One. Yeah,
right. So that's what I was going to say. I heard you say that in one of your videos, and I could not find any documentation showing that Brock was owner of it.
Here I have, if you guys can see that.
Yep, I can see it.
Those are the main guys. So Dan Larimer, who we know is the chief technology officer for Block One. Brock Pierce is a partner, as they call him, who's backed out now. He didn't say he sold his ownership or anything like that. He's just backed out. And this guy, the main guy now is this guy, Brendan Blummer.
Yeah.
So Brendan Blummer, interesting enough, was a little 15-year-old gamer that Brock Pierce groomed from a very young age. As soon as he turned 18, Brock bought his little company that traded digital gaming assets and moved the guy to Hong Kong. And that's where Brendan Blummer was groomed by Brock Pierce to control this entity. And if you've seen him speak, he's very general. He never speaks about anything, real. But they say, well, Dan Larimer is an expert. He created Steemit. He must know everything. And then Dan has his own problems that, I'm not a code guy. I can't get into the code. Will it work or will it not work? But there are, the biggest thing to me with EOS, one of the biggest things, is we have to move forward with integrity, with honesty, with truth. That's what the blockchain represents. And that's what the companies and the platforms need to represent. So if we come out and Trump all of a sudden pulls the plug on all these pedophile rings, and it's found out that Brock Pierce, Mark Collins Rector, and Chad Stanley or whatever his name is, are involved in this and are knee deep in it, that's a huge perception problem for EOS. And it's hard to say that companies can survive things like that. Look at like BitConnect. That was great technology. That was the structure of the company was an obvious Ponzi scheme, but it was great technology, and the technology worked. But it doesn't mean that the token is going to survive something like that. Same with Centra.
I don't know what technology did BitConnect have.
Well, it fooled everybody.
No one ever saw their proof of their elusive bot. So.
But it worked. That's the thing. It worked. It worked because it was structured as a Ponzi scheme behind the scenes.
Right.
That nobody really could see it. They had their own exchange that the tokens traded on.
Right.
Which is kind of like what's going on with Brock Pierce. Brock Pierce basically owns Bitfinex and Tether, and you can see the links between this. It's all in these corporations that are offshore.
Well, my thing is to your point about EOS and the term of service portion first. That was something that I knew from the get-go. I've been a supporter of EOS since last June, July. And I read through it and I saw that term, those statements, and it was a lengthy terms of service. And they really, to me, it looks like they were just trying to cover their asses on all legal fronts. You got to remember, Block One is a open source. They're an open source creator of software. So even if, let's just say,
I don't think they are. They
are.
Block One, the company, is a private company. They haven't provided anything yet. So when Block One releases the EOS to the world,
well, no, they produce it. They produce Dawn. Dawn is out. Dawn 3.0. They're getting ready to roll out 4.0.
Yeah,
is a working product. It is working. I did a video the other day that showed a group over in London who is a candidate for a block producer because there are going to be 21 block producers allowed.
I thought there's going to be 7 at the start.
Well, there's 21 altogether. I'm not sure.
Right,
maybe it's 7, but this producer over in London, they created a game where you actually can control the ship of this game on the phone. Awesome. Right. So I mean,
it was like Space Invaders, right?
Space Invaders, right? Space Invaders. So it is a working. They do. This is not like they have this. It's not a Ponzi scheme. It's not like BitConnect from that standpoint.
Well, we don't know this. We don't know this. Okay, I think the technology is there. I don't know if it can work on the kind of scale that they're claiming. But yes, I don't think they're going to day one they're going to walk away with his money. Although they can. They legally
can. Right, no doubt. But legally, any of them could walk away. Ethereum could have walked away. I mean, they didn't even have a terms of service. So is it better to have a TOS and outline, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we can offer, or this is what we can promise you or not, versus Ethereum Foundation didn't have anything.
Right. I agree 100%. And yes, on the surface, that's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. But when you say something like that, which is fine, I understand that this is the Wild West of the cryptos.
Right.
So what can you trust in? You can trust in management. And that's why I dug into management, just because I don't believe it when someone like Brock Pierce says, trust me.
Right. No, I agree. Like the whole Brock Pierce thing is suspicious.
But he owns all of Block One. He owns that whatever amount of money.
Okay, but here's my thing about that. Even if he owns, and there's no proof yet to show that, but let's just say you're right on that. He owns Block One in totality. Let's just say some bad news comes out. They show this pedophile ring, whatever. It wouldn't matter because the Block One has produced EOS.io, which is an open source platform that will go on with or without Block One. If that makes sense.
Well, you would think that Central would do the same thing. Since it was working, you had the card, right?
Yeah,
it was working.
Absolutely.
So does it matter that management is in jail now? Would it run
I think that is a different situation because that is centrally run. So Central was actually a company. They had their mobile device. All the stuff they had was in-house. That was done in-house. It was on the blockchain, some of it, but it wasn't run. What do you want to say?
It was a company.
It was a company, right?
Whereas this will be a platform.
EOS is like an operating system, an open source operating system. Anyone can develop anything on it. Once they launch it next month, it's fair game.
Right. And so I agree. I do think, as far as will the dollars be there in trading EOS? Yes, I do think that EOS will be successful on a limited basis in the beginning until it really scales up, and then obviously it's software, so there's going to be bugs and issues.
Yeah, there will be. Absolutely.
The latest bug and issue was brought to the attention. It was recent, before this latest release, and they said no, that was really on the programmer side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the coder side. Mm-hmm. But and that's what Dan Larimer said. Hey, if the coders aren't smart enough to figure this out, they got a problem. It's not a problem with the platform.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That goes completely against what they're selling this thing as, a very easily codable platform. Well, I'm not going to argue that point because I have no idea.
Okay.
What the coding problem is.
No, it was a Stack Overflow. It was a Stack Overflow issue, and it was a programmer, the way they designed their code in that instance for that particular test. It was the fault of the, I don't know if it was a company or a group or whatever that did that. So that was, and so what Dan Limmer is saying is that essentially he's giving you the tools to build whatever you want.
Right.
And
but he's also claiming it's very easy. He's claiming it's so much easier to program on this compared to
it is than Solidity.
You have multiple languages. You can program with C++, which is the main computer programming language that most people use. In addition, it uses WebAssembly, so there's the ability to program in Solidity if you wanted to. You can program in Java and then convert that to C++. And then, so there's other options besides Solidity, which is what Ethereum's limited to, which would make it easier, you know, and, you know, will this happen? You know, future will tell us, but, you know, for companies, if there was scaling issues and decided they wanted to move from Ethereum to EOS, because Solidity is included in WebAssembly, they could port that over.
Correct. So you're going to see so you're going to see projects be able to port over to EOS, run more efficiently. All these projects that are on Ethereum
if it
network,
works, right? If it works,
if it works, yeah.
Right. If it works, I mean, it's not an if, it will work. It's just that what type of bugs.
I would say you can't say that. I mean,
we can.
Can it work with millions of users?
Absolutely.
It can work in test mode right now.
Absolutely. And this is the reason why I'll say that.
Satoshi disagrees with you.
We'll get to that. We'll get to Satoshi. What the thing is, we've seen Steem. I don't know if you know this fact. Steemit, that blockchain that Dan Limmer created, actually does more transactions per day than Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin combined. That's a little known secret that most little known fact that people.
It's enclosed within the Steemit network. It's not out there, everybody building on it and things like that.
No, you can build. No, you can build. No, you can build. You can build on there. They're called smart media tokens. You can build your own dApps on top of the Steemit blockchain. So that's, I guess, my why I had so much confidence in this whole EOS project was because I use on a daily basis Steemit. I know you use it as well, don't you, Bix?
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, so they took a lot of the original code from EOS was ported over to not EOS, from Steem. It was ported over to EOS.
Some say most of EOS is based on.
Well, most of the original, when they first, like Dawn 1.0 was a lot of the Steemit, but they've built on top of it, and actually it's even faster than Steemit now.
And didn't Dan come out and say he's going to put a Steem 2.0 on the EOS blockchain?
I think so. I think he's going to try to do that. Yeah.
So what's going to happen to the original Steem token?
I think Steam's going to get crushed. I think Steam's going to get crushed.
I know.
I think Steam's going to get.
Wait a minute. I mean, Dan has left so many projects. It's kind of like, okay, what happens if? I mean, and this is even set up for Dan to leave EOS after everything goes live, and they release the software to the world. Mm-hmm. It's up to the programmers out there. The people it's in the wild at that point, really, to be honest with you. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Has Dan said anything about staying or leaving, or what happens when the first glitch happens and Dan's like, hey, not my project. I got my $2 billion and left.
Well, I know this. Okay, I know that. I remember Sean. Sean SGT is a buddy of mine, and I remember he did a video interview with one of the. And I talked to him about this afterwards. He did an interview with, and I don't know his name, but he's one of the head guys for Steemit, and he's a personal friend of Dan. And he said that, I know he's built BitShares, he's built Steemit, and this is his third go around at a platform. And he said, and I think this is pretty much Dan's words, if I'm not mistaken, that this is the platform he's always wanted to build and be involved with.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He said that on.
I heard him say that.
Yeah. He said that on your buddy's. Was it Jeff Burick's interview? Yeah, he said that as well. Yep. And
Jeff invented the term the Ethereum killer.
Yeah, he did. I remember
that. He did.
That's pumped a couple $2 billion right into EOS.
Yeah, you're right.
He spent a lot of money on marketing.
Yeah, Nick and I talked about that. We were wondering if he was.
We did. We talked about that a week ago.
Yeah, if he was paid to go on.
Jeff's not a tech guy. He's not. He comes from the gold and silver world like I do. So
right.
That boosted the credibility of EOS immensely.
Right.
When he said that, and I'm like, all these claims are too soon to tell. If it works, that's great. I would say.
So I'm more technical. So that was a reason why I looked into it a little bit more.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is definitely because I'm looking at all these projects that are promising all these Goldilocks, promises and stuff on the Ethereum network. All these ICOs they've done. I'm like, we can't do what they're talking about promising to the individuals and users on Ethereum. It's just not possible.
What's your take on, and Cliff High and Satoshi have the same problem with Dan's the decentralized, the proof of stake.
Proof of stake, yeah.
Well, it's delegated proof of stake. It's a little different than proof of stake.
Right. But what's your take, not on that, but what's your take on the potential for centralization, especially when at the beginnings of each project? Because the beginnings of Steemit were kind of murky. The beginnings of EOS is kind of in the shadows. And if you do get, 11 super nodes or whatever they call them, that are all kind of in your world that you control, really, that is the ability. And that's what Satoshi said because Dan Larimer had a very famous encounter with
Satoshi.
Yeah.
Right,
and Satoshi says, and he was talking about, it's not going fast enough. We need to, get these. He was talking about the same thing he's doing now. And Satoshi said, we can solve that problem this way. And Dan's like, no. We can do what he's talking about with the super nodes and all. And Satoshi goes something to the effect of, dude, you're not smart enough to figure this out. I'm not going to walk you through it.
I remember that. Yeah. I think he is, man. He's since then has gotten even better. He may have not been at that point on the level of Satoshi.
Why would he hook up with Brock Pierce? That's what. I don't.
Yeah.
He should answer.
That's a big question.
Yeah. And I'll get to that. Let me answer your question about the whole centralization. That is an issue, and I think every project has that initial centralization,
right?
Like Big Bang. Everything starts here, and then boom, we spread out and get more decentralized. So I think that we will have that initial issue of centralization with EOS. We had it with
Block 1 gets to pick the first 7.
Block 1 gets to pick the first 7.
Which is, I'm like, oh Jesus! You got Brock Pierce, probably the biggest criminal on planet Earth, picking because he controls Block 1, picking the first 7 super.
So here's the thing about DPoS or delegated proof of stake. The thing is, there are different types of algorithms for different types of things. Like delegated proof of stake wouldn't work for a currency because it's too centralized, but it would work better for a situation where we're running software, we're doing storage on decentralized networks. I would never do delegated proof of stake on a currency. I would rather you do proof of stake or proof of work. Really, proof of work would be better. It's more energy used, but it spreads out the risk and it makes sure that there's no double spending going on. So that's why I like, like your Bitcoin and Litecoins and stuff for that type of structure, architecture. But I think delegated proof of stake works very well in the case of basically we're trying to build the first blockchain operating system. And I think it's perfect for that. Now you can change. He said it shows that Dan Limmer said we can change the way the algorithm works. Once we get inside of that, we can have like a siloed version running of EOS. So the entire system is delegated proof of stake, but inside of that you can do different things and make your own type of algorithm and really expand. So I don't know, man. I still am a firm believer. I'm very suspicious about, the whole Brock Pierce thing. But from what we understand on paper, we don't have anything more than that. He has stepped down or away from EOS. Does he still have tokens and stake? I would assume so. But does that really?
He owns all the Ethereum, and I don't know how much they cashed in. But I think he's going to need it to get the money behind Tether. Mm-hmm. He is the guy behind that too. It's when you dig into this stuff, it's so dark and murky, and if I would feel better. I don't think I'd recommend it, but I'd feel better if Dan Larimer came out and said, "Hey, this guy Brock Pierce, I didn't know how evil and criminal he was."
Yeah. Let's say he did. Let's even say Dan Larimer is a pedo. Like, I'm totally firmly against.
I have no evidence of that.
Right, you don't. We don't have any evidence of this, but we don't know who Satoshi is. Satoshi could have been a pedo.
I know.
I'm just saying, like, we don't know, and that's the beauty of Bitcoin is because we don't have a face to place on this crypto, and that's what happens.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. I'd say it's different than Bitcoin. I'd say EOS, and you said it too. It's different. It's a platform that's being built. Having a face behind it I think is important. I mean, if Dan Lerner wasn't attached to EOS, we wouldn't even be talking about it, right?
Right, Dan or
Probably
Brock.
not, yeah.
Right, we wouldn't be talking. We would be saying this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, we probably wouldn't even know about it.
Might not get most of the
it wouldn't have
attention.
it wouldn't have gotten the money if they didn't structure it that way. I mean, it is right now. It's all hype, 100% hype with this potential for being one of the greatest cryptos out there.
Yeah, we'll have to disagree on the hype, man. They're proving
it.
You
think if Dan wasn't involved and that this would still be?
If Dan wasn't involved, I probably wouldn't be as excited about it.
Okay.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't be as excited. One last thing I want to ask, though. Did you know that Brock Pierce was actually a board member on the Bitcoin Foundation?
Yeah, and 10 people quit the moment he was elected, including Andreas Antonopoulos, who I think is,
I love him. Yeah,
dude, you can, but you can keep going. You can go down the list. He was a speaker at Jeffrey Epstein's Pedophile Island.
Oh God,
he was the Clinton Global Initiative.
Yeah, he's got Clinton Foundation ties.
He's got CIA all over him, the deep state. So it's really bad.
But again, because it's open source,
I know you separate, but again, if we're moving into a world of the biggest problem with the cryptos is the perception thing that it's drug dealers and money launderers. This doesn't help. Stuff like this doesn't help. And if Dan were to come out and said and leave Block One and say, "Oh my God, I had no idea these guys were criminals. I want to give this to the world, but Block One owns it all right now, and hey, have all the money and I am the CTO of Block One, and there's like a handful of people who work there." I don't know what he might do that after it goes live and he walks away with whatever $1 billion. I don't know.
Well, the $1 billion though is in the fund and is actually being used to help promote the development of applications on EOS. Nick, you said they did a fund and they donated like 120 something million or something. Do you know anything about that?
To get the VCs to build, you mean?
No, to different projects, like different.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
The rumor is that they're going to use all that. Nobody knows. Estimates are 1.5 to $2 billion that they have in their coffers for selling EOS beforehand. But Block One has said, we're gonna give billions to the development of apps for EOS. They don't have to. That's something they said. And they just hired a new legal counsel who is a guy who's absolutely in bed with the SEC. So I think it's a good move that they did that because I think there'll be a lot of scrutiny around it. Just the way it was structured, the rollout of the ICO. It's never before have we seen a year-long ICO and all the buildup and hype. But will they do it? Yeah, if they were an upstanding company, they get back to the management. Block One doesn't have to do anything. They can just walk away because it says right there.
Yeah, they could. They could, but I don't see Dan for like why.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't see him ruining his rep for what reason? What does he benefit from doing that? That's
probably
my whole
$1 billion.
Well, it's not his though, right? So,
yeah. Well, I would assume he has a huge chunk of the he works for Block One. He's the CTO of Block One. So yes, and there's not a lot of people at Block One, maybe a handful.
Nick, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say there's always this possibility too. Maybe and I don't have any evidence to back this or refute it, but maybe Dan's being used as well. They knew, you know what I mean? Maybe they knew what kind of reputation he has, and maybe if some nefarious move by Block One's going to be made, he might be being led to believe that everything's on the up and up until it happens, and then he ends up looking like a
what does it benefit when it's open source and when they release it next month? It doesn't matter if all of them get shot in the head. Double tap. it it doesn't matter. The code is there. People can start developing.
Well, yeah, that's true.
These vast, powerful applications and move on. I don't.
Well, the only thing left after that, after it's released and it's working on scale type of thing, and where a lot of people are using it, the only thing left is, are these nodes, were they set up to be centralized secretly behind the scenes? Yes, it's a conspiracy theory, but I think Block 1 is picking the first 7 supernodes that get to decide a lot of things right at the beginning. And Block 1, I know to be a criminal enterprise. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, so 7 out of 21 still isn't 50%. So...
But they're only doing 7 at the beginning.
I know. I'm just saying, I don't know, and I'll have to go look, and you guys in the comments below can tell us when they're going to allow the full 21 nodes to be done. But we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see.
But they don't. Yeah, I don't think anybody at Block 1 wants to be in this for the long term at all. They want their money quick, and they want out. Just like kind of Steemit is kind of, if you look at the beginnings of Steemit, there was a small group of people that controlled everything, and I think. Dan saying that he's going to create Steam 2.0 is kind of like, oh my God, that would destroy Steemit, because everybody loves Dan Larimer. They're going to run to the new Steemit with a new coin, and there goes
which
the
is going to be
coin.
Faster. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if that.
There's a morality issue. At some point, you got to say, dude,
he just sounds like LeBron James to me. To be honest with you, just jumping around teams. I'm going to EOS.
I know.
I will say that, but learning about Brock Pierce and more about the whole background of him and the ties that he has, it does give me a little more pause about the overall company. I will admit that.
Company Block 1 or the EOS
the whole thing, the whole situation. I still own my EOS. I didn't sell it, but you know what I mean. The
whole
makes
thing
me think
is
a little more.
Yeah, I mean it does, but at the end of the day, it's ignorance bliss. We go and support all of these Hollywood films every year. That Hollywood is full of pedos. We don't stop going to see our favorite movies. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of the same. It actually is. EOS is better because it will allow us to circumvent the banksters, in my opinion, with this great operating system that they're building. I don't know. We'll have to see, Bix, man, and we'll definitely have you. This will probably be a recurring topic on in the mix with Bix. For sure.
I would love it if Block 1 went away and EOS was perfectly successful and really did help humanity.
Yeah.
I just don't buy. I'm not buying the Kool-Aid.
They said, give me all your Bitcoin and lock aim. Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So we hopped in a Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party Podcast.